Hello everyone, you welcome to this edition of The Insight. I am Babler Jonathan. In this edition of the program, we continue bringing to you facts and figures about the mining sector in the Republic of Cameroon. We are going to the source to bring to you information, to bring to you what matters, to tell you what is happening on the ground as far as the mining sector in the country is concerned. And so we're highlighting the different domains, but we'll be focusing more on the gold mining subsector. And we're taking you into that sector to edify, to bring to you the facts, to bring to you the figures about what is happening in that sector as far as the extraction of the country's underground resources is concerned. And meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest today is Professor Calistus Gentry. He's the Interim Minister of Mines, Industry and Technological Development of Cameroon. He is an expert in mining and mineral exploration, and before he became a member of government, he worked for several international companies, including the Office of Geology and Mining Research, BRGM in France, the Uranium Research Center in Crégou-Nancy in France, the Clough Resources in London, Geodata Service, Ghana Country Representative for IAM Gold, Ghana Corporation in Canada. He served as director of mines company MEDAF, a mining company based in Switzerland with mining operations in West Africa. He has been a fellow of the Geological Society of London, and he was a member of the Institute of Mining and Metallurgy. Mr. Minister, thank you for making our time to edify us on what is happening in the mining sector in the Republic of Cameroon. First of all, give us an overview of the major projects that are going on in the mining sector in the Republic of Cameroon.
Yes, I must say 2025 was a historic year where Cameroon transitioned from country potential to a mining nation with the launching of 5 major mining projects, 2 in the iron ore sector, 1 in the textile sector, 1 in gold, 1 in limestone. For the iron ore sector, we have the Sinus Steel project. It was a famous magnetic PDU with the new seas independence. We have another project runs on the oil PDU here. And then we also have the famous medium oxide project, which the government has been history since independence. And I'm happy to announce that as we speak, 160 locomotives are already with all operations on the railway from this to finish by August, and the first exportation with this bauxite will be by the last quarter of this year, while the transformation of aluminium from bauxite to aluminium will take place right in Macau, not far from Macap, which is the transformation of bauxite to aluminum. So it's a whole transitional industry which touches mining industry, and that alumina will be used to make profitable asset drive and you can factory. All this while having this country. There again we have those users in Cameroon. Again we have the value chain where we are now producing decaf from limestone in this project was launched in Pizza. I also want to say that in this year, 2026, we have launched 5 other projects where we are focusing on moving gold from the artisanal to industrial sector. The launching of 4 gold projects. In large colony, we are going to have the project in Bourgogne in the East region. We're also going to have a project in Bikini in the North region. We have a project in Bere in the Equinoxe region. These are 4 industrial grade projects. In the total value of all these 4 reserves in these 4 projects total 150 tons. This is, we will also be looking at the Balang project, which we believe that we started, and we believe that the Ministry of Infrastructure and Regional Network project to have a transition from site which is 540 kilometers away to Treaty. We'll also be looking at the Govaya Iron project which is still in Treaty, and then the Cook project which is in the south. So we have another 5 projects as a target to launch, where in Cameroon will interfere in the mining industry with about 11 projects. This is a record for any nation. Today you can hardly call the mining nation. We were invited to the United States to be admitted fully as a member of the bauxite aluminum bloc. It was in Miami. And so today we are being looked upon in the world as a mining nation. That only adds interest of the aluminium potential in things like rare earth, which we are amongst the top nations in Africa. We have cobalt, nickel, titanium, and other resources, which are the next targets after the statement. I think the game is set in today only talking mining, not talking potential.
I was going to ask you if it is established today that Cameroon is transitioning from a country with high mineral potential to an active mining producer. That transition seems to have taken place already.
That's what I just said. We were launching a 5 mining project last year, and see in all the activities going on in the field. With the beginning of export of bauxite this year, with the beginning of construction of the units that will transform bauxite to aluminum, with all these projects, we are very active mining nation. To all the images you are showing and all the pictures outside and releasing the test is seeing evidence.
How far have you gone already with the execution of all these projects?
I think the images you show speak for themselves rather than description. In science, you can see that all the many themselves as I studied. The Prime Minister in last year, we're going to take the hot terminal and just hot. I don't know. In the beginning, we are going even beyond that, as you can see from the pictures and everything. The mine is ongoing, but we want to transform iron ore, which comes out and literally is at 3%, but the process brings it up to 60%. But that company is taking it further to produce 100% iron into the industry in the market. So that is its project that goes from mining right to industry. All the mining activities that you were against to, it's not a promise. It's an ongoing project. And the first aspects of iron mines have been done already. Have killed the first exports of each bauxite will be done in the last quarter of this year.
The officials of G-Stones talk about the necessity to accelerate local transformation to ensure that the iron ore is transformed to the state where it can be used by local companies to produce all the other goods that are produced from iron.
Yeah, that's why I say that is a very integrated project, because we're not just aiming at producing iron ore for itself, and let anybody in Cameroon know that even Australia exports iron ore. So all of it cannot be transformed in Cameroon. First of all, mining companies, their convention do not oblige them to transform. You must have an industrial base to fix and continue what mining does. And I think we have done that in the mining code to insist that at least 15% of iron ore or any other mineral should be transformed in Cameroon. So I think G-Stone has taken a very good example, and in Fiji and in other areas in India have already set the industrial base of transforming this iron to pellets. And these pellets are 100% free. And that is what all the companies you see in Royal, like Metal, and the US use to make iron ores are always So it's a complete value chain that. That is the same thing with bauxite. Like the common bauxite, working in the fuel value chain, where we have bauxite, aluminum chain, aluminum in Nigeria, we are aluminum to aluminum products, which is what you see in Ghana.
Right. Mr. Minister, there are concerns about the fact that many of the mining companies are foreign companies.
Let me say this, that, the capital investment on mining too, and the whole world is a cartel of companies. Every nation works hard in very good mining code in order to benefit highest. I must say that even in industry, my philosophy is very simple. It is not where who produces what, but where it is produced. If since independence, we make sure that all that we eat, all that we wear, all of that we are using is produced in Cameroon. It doesn't matter who produces. It is tax system. It is all the conditions of employment, all the job creation. So you go to Australia and you find that in South Africa, the companies, South Africa started its business 3 centuries ago, but there are foreign companies in South. If you go to Australia, there are Chinese companies operating in Australia. So it's a cartel, and we are just starting. At least we are proud to say that we are starting. A list of the projects I'm naming, 2 are owned entirely by Cameroonians, and that is a world record. So mining is now a business that is done by local companies that are created today. It's a long process. As we mature our companies, for now the state interest in all of these companies is represented by our national mining company, which has taken a stake. We have worked so hard that the state was production sharing in all of this by virtue of our mining. So I think everywhere in the world, if you go to Ghana, there are still foreign companies. If you go to Sierra Leone, if you go to Canada, there are mining companies. If you go to England or British Petroleum or the North Sea, there are foreign companies, there are American companies. So there's a global cartel of people who work. The Cameroon has done so much to involve local companies. They're very high esteem, and we are starting our mining with 2 fully owned Cameroon companies in the business. And we have created a mining code which takes care of everybody. There's artisanal mining, there's semi-mechanized artisanal mining, there's small-scale industrial mining, and there is industrial mining, which so everybody can find his level in each of these 4 levels. So when you say Cameroonians are not involved, I think that is interesting.
About production sharing, you've explained this a number of times, even in the last editions of the program that we had, but it seems not still well understood about the production sharing and the benefits that comes to the state of Cameroon.
Yes, production sharing simply means that you see, in our first mining post that we are drawn post to us by foreign organizations, all we had inside was 10%, 20%, depending on the nation. And then that meant that we had to wait on dividends. And then we had to wait on tax on income. These companies spend a lot of money to exploration. They had to pay all those exploration costs before they would declare a dividend or before they pay tax. So most African companies ended up with not really getting the benefit. Take the bold step about a person in Africa. You say that from the very day production starts, have a certain percentage. This is found only in the oil sector. Why? Because oil comes out as a direct product and sold. But when the oil comes out of the ground, it's not a direct product, so it has to be treated. If you take iron ore in Privy, you might spend $90 treating a ton of iron ore. So we can't share what is produced by somebody. So you have to put a law that says, even though you produce it with your money, I will collect this percentage because it's in my country, even though I didn't participate in the production cost. That's simply the meaning of production. It's not done in the mining sector, but in each mining convention, we negotiate what is still there as a percentage, even though it does not contribute. But the dividends are still there. The income tax is still there.
The taxes for using our roads are still there. The taxes for using our ports are still there. So we have about 5 levels of tax. But the first tax is that as soon as the mining starts, if we take the case of bauxite, 12% of the gross value of the project comes to the state on day one. After that, the dividends will still be declared when the company will make profit. After that, that company will be taxed like every other company on the profit it is making in the business. They will still pay for using our rail. They will still pay for using our roads. They will still pay a lot of handling charges at the seaport. But we start with that production share, which is an innovation in the company. And it varies for the projects we have negotiated. The least you can have in a project so far is 7.5% for the project by the Cameroonian to about 20% for a project like Bala, where the government will put not that is just taking what you take our participation before going to the tax regime of that's a minimum.
So with all what you have said now and what you've said before, because I also had a conversation with the divisional delegate of the Ministry of Mines, Industry and Technological Development for the Ocean Division when we visited the mining site there, and he equally emphasized on the point that Cameroon is not the best loser, because we've had observers, analysts giving the impression that Cameroon is the best loser. Cameroon is just giving out its minerals for little or nothing.
Well, Mr. Babila, over the years, Cameroonians said there was no mine. There was no mining. We're a mining nation, we have potential. And we have brought the mining. And every project has a mining complex. The Cameroonian needs to take this mining complex to read it. We have even made a summarized thing which shows what each project brings as fallouts in terms of taxation, in terms of relationship, in terms of job, in terms of local content, in terms of what they will do to the community, royalties. So, if Cameroonians could have developed it, why did you work all this while? As I say, in Ghana, which is a mining nation, it's not the oil by Kenyans. The contracts that we have signed with these companies are some of the best in the world. And people can only understand by doing a comparative study. What did these companies sign in Ghana to exploit this? You do that study. Even in our artisanal sector, we take 30% of what is produced. The only problem is that we don't master what is produced because it is an artisanal sector that there are no feasibility study, and that's why we're trying to restructure it. But that's the highest in the world. So I think people must always work with statistics and do who has a better deal than us. Then we can sit and look at it. So I think the sector is new and there's a lot of ignorance. But this program that we do and other people do on other fora, explain. It's our duty to educate.
Tell us a little more about the artisanal mining issue, the fact that it's not controlled, it's not totally controlled. What are you doing to change that? You talked about restructuring. What are you doing to restructure the artisanal mining perspective of the whole thing?
Artisanal, the name says it all. It's an activity that is more like tradition. It's like people who farm cocoa get up and do their cocoa in there. It's not a plantation. Industrial mining is a plantation. The average cocoa farmer or the man working maize to eat is you can call it artisanal in agriculture.
The subsistence.
Subsistence, that's the word. So if somebody gets up in the east, he goes down to the river and washes something. He will find something. That's the origin of it. How do you control it? It's a tradition. But we have come in with a law to say that this is divided into two sectors. The one that remains traditional, the mayor of that town can give you one is to work on dimension it. So you don't use any heavy equipment. Anything above 1 hectare, where you use heavy equipment, The difference being that you didn't do a physical study. When you have a license, just go there and try to watch what is in the river bed or on the surface. You don't go to certain depth. That is a limitation. So those, we have innovated it to say we must have a minimum idea of what is. So today we have put a number of laws. For you to be involved in semi-mechanized mining, you must declare that your minimum declaration per month is 10 kilos a ton. That means that Sonamin is going to collect 30% of that amount, 20% which comes in as a consolidated tax, and 5% which is an export tax. So that, but if we cannot, because Cameroon taxation system is based on declaration. If the person declares and it's not an industrial production where we can master, then we are working on a false declaration. So the problem is false declaration. That's why we have introduced technology as a condition, where we have semi-mechanized systems which work and is closed, so that it can only be open on the day both parties decide to take out it. So it works and bring out measurable gold, as you see in the pictures that are shown. That is a measurable system. And that's why we want that anybody who has to do artisanal, semi-mechanized artisanal mining now must have that system. If you don't have that system, then you must yield to pay a minimum declaration, so that at least the state can project what you get from your production. And therefore, all the taxes and all the differences between what is exported and what is declared will be wiped out, because the taxes for exportation are collected at the source person. So if you are producing 10 kilos, you have to pay 5% to the state as export tax right at the source of production. So the only problem has been that the mastery of artisanal mining is a problem in every country. Every country. Ghana, most countries in the world, Australia, Canada, there's no artisanal mining. So they don't have that kind of problem. But because of, low incomes and the rest in Africa, people engage in these activities. And it's a survival means, it's subsistence, it's culture. So it goes with a high degree of unculture. So Cameroon has set up a very, very well-managed system, which is developed. So as the new measures that are imposed today, means that we must have a minimum declaration we make before we can give you. All illegal activities, people get up far away in the forest in how do you know? It's so vast. So we keep, through the help of other people, checking that all oppressions that are not authorized by the ministry, there's a team that went out this week to shut down all those oppressions. Of course, they are referred some people. Next week, there's a follow-up where all the production systems of those who are illegal will be stopped, all will be dismantled and packed at the regional delegation of mines. Other than for anybody working with organized activity, if your operation is illegal, your equipment will be taken away. Your operation will stop. This is the instructions we have from directly, and this is what we are going to work with. And we believe that order will be restored. And before April, May, we should be able to give a declaration. But these are the number of official complaints. This is the total number of gold we expect to get from export taxes. And this is the number of gold we expect to get to add to government reserves. Let me make it clear that before, Cameroon had no gold reserves. But since we started our operation of semi-mechanized mining, Cameroon has lodged in the Ministry of Finance, now lodged with the special case for deposits, 1,500 kilograms of gold. We had nothing.
What does that represent, Mr. President?
It represents gold. It represents what the Tsunami is collecting as taxes from the state, form of gold. So it is the reserves of the state. That means Cameroon has 1,500 kilograms of gold lodged as its reserves. Pure refined gold, since we started this operation of a consolidated tax on artisanal mining. So that is gold that belongs to. That's why we get as collecting taxes. But this can be improved if the real figures of production are declared. And that is a war we are on now to make sure that real figures of production are declared. But in most countries, artisanal mining is troublesome. It's a sector that in South Africa, when mines are finished and abandoned, people go there as scavengers. And many people die because it's not controlled.
I was going to ask you about the risk to which those carrying out illegal mining activities are exposed. Apart from ensuring that what is extracted is exactly what is declared, and ensuring that what's supposed to come to the state in terms of revenue it actually comes to the state. Is the restructuring also targeting the perspective of risk, reducing the risk to which people are exposed, and also environmental risk?
Very good. Listen, the best restructuring you can do to avoid all this, make sure that most of mining is industrial mining. As I've said, 4 industrial mines. That's it. But you cannot stop artisanal mining. You've gone there still to. Before anybody can have a semi-mechanized artisanal mine, he has to pay to the Ministry of Finance 63 million as a caution that if you finish and you do not repair the environment, the state will use that money to pay back. That's it. They have also put a minimum declaration that you must make. If you cannot make that minimum declaration, we will not allow you to operate legally. You will close your operation. There's no work at night. All companies that the mayor gives them a license in the regions to work must never use mechanizing. It is meant to preserve the tradition of those as subsistence. So all of these measures are gearing to the fact that we will impose within the next 3 months, you must have a small industrial setup, which we call a closed system, in which artisanal mining is done, where you don't pour affluents into the rivers, but more important for transparency, so that the gold that it is measurable in a locked system. It's an electronic system which will capture the gold and is preserved till the day that all parties interested, the state, the shareholders, and everybody will be present. I think you showed it, that blue machine you showed in the report is the ideal. It doesn't cost much. You can have it ranging from $100,000 to, so that everybody can buy something of that nature, depending on the capacity of the operation. And there will be transparency, and the problem will end. But the problem is that we have resistance. We have resistance of people who are working forcefully, and we don't have the power and the personnel to physically stop. But as we have gotten a lot of approval from hierarchy, we're going on the ground to confiscate all the systems of those who are working illegally, especially the production systems. People must comply to paying the right environmental fees. People must comply to sign that they will do a minimum declaration. People must sign to comply that within 6 months they must transition into a closed system which gold coming out there is measured, so that declaration is not by honor, is not by what I want to declare. That's where a lot of the fraud comes, and we believe that through this Tsunami will have a better collection system, so that we, as a ministry, we are a regulatory body. We do not deal with gold. We only set the laws and make sure. We do not deal with petroleum. The Sonara SNH does with everything controlling petroleum. We are there to set the rules, to make sure that the state companies in charge execute those rules according to the state's orientations.
Mr. Minister, I want us to go to the news stands now. We'll be right back after the press review to tell you more about the gold mining sector. News Help reports the constitutional reform that reintroduces the post of vice president as constitutional successor of the head of state in Cameroon. The Voice qualifies the constitutional reform as critical. The Guardian Post and Cameroon Tribune talk about the meeting of the lower and upper houses of parliament in a congress to review the constitution of the republic. Larry Times projects an opinion piece by Dr. David Makongo, From Two-State Federation to a Bloody Armed Conflict, Southern Cameroon's Resources Calls. Welcome back. We're still with our guest, Professor Calistus Gentry, mining and mineral exploration expert, Interim Minister of Mines, Industry and Technological Development of Cameroon. Mr. Minister, you said earlier that artisanal mining is something that has become like a tradition, a culture for some parts of the country, particularly in the east, and that makes it difficult to be completely stopped. But we have obnoxious cultures that are repugnant to human, to natural law, including things like female genital mutilation that are being completely eroded away by sensitization and some other human rights actions on the ground in some parts of Cameroon and Africa at large. If that is being changed, why not artisanal mining?
We are changing. We are saying that as long as there's gold and as long as they are human beings, they need survival. We are changing it by technological innovation. We are changing it by technological innovation by putting systems that will be environmentally friendly, so that the Cameroonian who cannot invest in industrial mining can do mining at a level which is clean, transparent, and where the state gets benefit. Let me give you the recent case of detailed publication where what people export is different from what is declared. Let me give you an example. Togo does not produce gold, but they exported 52 tons of gold. Chad, our neighbor, was at 18 tons. Sudan was at 48 tons.
One country where industrial mining is not developed has this problem because it's artisanal mining. The gold can come from other countries, it can be within that country, but they are using rudimentary measures that the state cannot. So that's why Cameroon is taking the gold by the horns, and I think you are the first in that category. To innovate, we have put a legislation to collect 30% of what is produced. But that technology, that legislation must be followed by technological innovation to see that we can control the commodities produced. Unlike industrial mining, a feasibility study is done. It takes 9 years, sometimes, to just do studies to develop an industrial mine. During that period, all the quantities are calculated. Daily production is worked out. Taxes are worked out. The Minister of Finance can already work out what he will be receiving from all the mines that have started. But in artisanal mining, when you have that, it's about the quick needs to empty. It's on the surface. It's not subject, it's on a very small area to stand, just 25, 21 hectares. So it's not subject to a long study. And it's like that everywhere. We have an obligation to totally stop it. But you need a whole Cameroon army to stop. Because as long as there are places where people can go and have a daily meal, I think the English adage, if you can't beat them, join them. You can only join them to regularize and make the sector formal. If people are doing industry in an informal way, you have to go there and make sure that their activity is formal so that it begins to be taxable and it gives revenue to the nation. The tax collection system might, if it is not controlled, cause losses about what people ought to pay if they spotted and went through the value. But if our airports are porous, if people do not declare their productions correctly, and the rest of it, the state loses money. But that doesn't mean that the state has lost gold. It's only people avoiding taxes. They do not pass the right way to pay taxes to export. Now, if the gold that is produced and put in the Minister of Finance care, and which is known markets for depositing valuables. If that goal, which is at say 1,500 kilograms, if 400 kilograms is missing, you say that the state has lost gold. But what is happening is called smuggling. People smuggle cocoa. Do you know that in the northwest region, we produce a lot of cocoa, but all is smuggled in Nigeria? It doesn't benefit the state. But if it was passed through the normal channels, all the taxes and the rest will be collected. So smuggling is a worldwide phenomenon. It's not only limited to gold. Maybe when this gold is more pronounced because gold is very small and it can be managed and put in small places and the rest of it. So smuggling is a problem in the economy of every nation. The state has put very strong mechanism to address the issue, and I'm sure that we are going to see a net result. Finally, we are also working with the Dubai authority to see this gold arrive in Dubai. At the right, who are the people who arrive with gold? Their names are known. So if we work and there's good cooperation between us and right, we can have the names of these people. And these taxes can be collected in 5 years. This phenomenon did not start today. It's always been there because people smuggle gold in every country. Ghana does not manage 80% of the artisanal sector. They don't worry too much because 90% of that production is in the industrial sector. And that's where we want to go. In fact, not abandoning that sector. We're improving it with good legislation which already allows the state to have 25% plus 5% export tax, 25% plus 5% export tax. And at the same time, we use that to build our reserves, and at the same time, we use that as export. So we are developing all the sectors, and I think that we are pioneering and finding a way to solve the problem to see.
Mr. Minister, you said something earlier which I want you to elaborate a little more on that, about the fact that there are several people who are depending on artisanal mining to earn living, who are depending on artisanal mining to put food on their table, to feed their families, to send their children to school. Are these some of the things that you're considering in your actions to bring the sector under control? Because definitely if you were to take some kind of stringent measures, that could lead to social tensions.
You see, it's an economy activity which, if well structured, will be profitable to those doing it and to the state. So it's not just about eradication. It's about rendering it from an informal sector to a formal sector. You can only render something formal if you can manage and understand the production figures. Only technological innovation can do this. That's why we have introduced the model of a group system. It is affordable to everyone. The small guy can have it. Very big corporations also can have it. The price range varies on the daily production. So we are not trying to, while we are trying to develop industrial mining as a mainstay, because we don't have artisanal iron ore mining, we don't have artisanal bauxite mining, our main goal is that the best for the state is industrial mining, but artisanal mining, well organized, as we have divided it into traditional artisanal mining, where the men will manage it, and semi-mechanized artisanal mining, where the state will manage it with a technological innovation in order to collect 30% of the production. Now, if we are able, through this technological innovation, to master the production, we could multiply our results by 10 times within 3 years. The problem is that people are doing false declaration, and there's no way of knowing it except they introduce a technological innovation in order to capture and master what they have received. That is our focus. And I think that is a very well-founded thing, even in industry. If people are listening haphazardly in water, what we do, we go out there to render it a formal activity, supervise it, and make it so that industry should grow. So we are developing the industrial sector, which is the mainstay of the economy, but we say that the artisanal sector will do a sizable contribution, but that is not the mainstay of industry. The mainstay of the mining industry is industrial. But we give a hope, we give a chance that traditions will remain, that those traditions will be done within a safe environmental entity with a bit of spicing of technology. I think everybody will find his place. Like your friends say, chacun va trouver son compte. That's what he will boil down to. The state will find its revenue, the environment will be preserved. I think we can manage it. But just know that control of artisanal mining and mining percentage is a problem worldwide. And each nation has lost specific mechanisms of combat. Is like in Brazil, it makes about 70% of the total gold mining in that country. And that's a major producer of gold. So it's a very complex situation which each nation has to address the specificities of that particular environment.
Right. What you're doing can be qualified as modernizing the people's cultures and traditions. Is there no resistance to that?
Of course, there is resistance. I think there is resistance at that level. So the resistance is about those who have interests and want to avoid transparency. Those who do not want to declare true figures of production. These people can afford these systems, but they want to stay with methods where they wash because they want the production to be determined by them. But the things that we're putting in place, they will have no control. It's the machine that will tell the state and the stakeholders what is produced. I think that's where we're having a true resistance. But for the typical artisanal person, the ministry, when the right time is there, should give them easy things to do rudimentary things. Just like the minister of agriculture can give people like small tools to work and yes, or subsistence farming. We do that, but in a properly environmental management, we have service for artisanal mining in the organigram of this ministry. So we recognize that it's an activity. But let me tell you, Mr. Babylon, Cameroon beats everybody. The chaos you see in the democratic community, because it's not only gold and statistics. Cobalt, nickel, coltan, everything goes on that artisanal. That's why you can see rebel goods year and year we finance a small good here. We have the finish target. The only thing that is subject to artisanal mining is semi-precious. It is a precious metal, gold. You can do semi-mechanism and or cobalt. That's why artisanal mining in those sectors. That is what degenerates a nation. It's not written anywhere in the mining code, but my responsibility as a person in charge of business is to make sure that we don't degenerate into that. So we remain focused on industrial mining. The precious metals in many parts of the world is where most artisanal mining has always been concentrated. But other countries have gone beyond to make it in a way that every metal in their country is mined artisanal. Cameroon has remained top in its honor in terms of the system.
Right, about the gap between gold export declarations by the state of Cameroon and what is recorded on the international scene. What explanation can you give to that wide gap? I think 15 tons.
Very simple. By comparative studies, Togo does not produce gold, but their gap is 50 tons. 52. Why? Because the gold comes from Ghana. By road, the conditions in Togo are porous at the ports. So people can easily get up on a plane with gold to go to Togo without the exigencies in Ghana. Because Ghana has an organized industrial production which handles gold at the airport with very rigorous standards. So, chart is saying 18 tons of gold was the gap. Cameroon was even the lowest. But what is common to all these countries is that there are countries where industrial gold mining has not taken root. So, what do we do? The cost is because people are going to declare gold. People are going to go out with gold when they do not pay the tax. But the Cameroon government has put on one of the best systems. In all semi-mechanized mining, that export tax is collected at the source. That means that Sonamin collects 25% as consolidated tax, but also collects 5% export tax for anybody producing artisanal mine. So that once that tax is collected, you are free to export it. The problem lies in the fact that the declarations are not genuine. Even those figures have to be revised because what Sonamin collected, Sonamin has to take it and add to the database of the customs because the tax was paid already at the source. That will improve the figure a bit, but there will still be a very wide gap. If this gap has to be closed, we must know what is produced at the source. And we must take note that gold can also come from other countries, transiting through Cameroon. Just like Togo does not produce gold, but they have exports of up to 52 tons from Togo. So when we put up all these factors, we make sure that our airports and we work with the buyer authorities to make sure that the names of all those who arrive with gold, which is not declared as singlets, then it will stop in inspection. And that's where we have been working with the authorities and making sure that we can exchange data, and then we make sure that anybody doing that is taking a risk, because one day your name will come.
How much is insecurity, for example, in the East region, with the Silica rebels in the Central African Republic contributing to this factor of gold coming into the country through illegal channels and then exported from the country and declared at arrival as gold exported from Cameroon?
Yes, we must say that we cannot say that just gold produced in Cameroon that is exported illegally. That's why we have put on measures to make sure that that tax of 5% collected at the source will increase, because with the new imposition of minimal production declaration levels, tax will be collected at the collection sessions. Now, we cannot, as I say, Togo does not produce gold, but they had a gap of 52 tons because the gold came from another country. Those are excesses, but our first point is to be able to master the production of gold in our country and make sure that what is produced, we can quantify it and subject it to tax, exportation tax at the source, so that those figures are transferred to the customs service to add it to our export tax. Those gold that is not from semi-mechanized sector, from another country, is a port. Our ports ought to be secure, that nobody should have gold passing. It should be confiscated. And today, when gold is confiscated, it automatically becomes part of our reserves. But before the 2024, the law came into place in 2024, when gold was confiscated, there was a committee which sat and met the defaulter to pay penalties. The penalties were sometimes 100% of the value before gold was restricted. So today, since the new law, if you are caught with gold illegally at the port, it's totally confiscated. So if our security services are up to the task and we make the right inspections, any gold that is illegally transported should be confiscated and added to your state reserves. And I think if that is done, it will keep the foundation to try to export gold without proper declarations.
About gold trafficking in Cameroon, the presidency of the republic has ordered an investigation into that.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
I think it's giving us a lot of power to do what we are doing in the field. Because on the field we say, look, you comply, the presidency wants clearance, transparency in what is done. It's at all levels. It's what is produced. It's at the airport. We are giving Kimberly the power that they should even stand at the entry point of the plane to check. Because sometimes people pass through, and as I hear, people might come to the plane with something and hit them. So we have done all that, but it needs the cooperation of all services. It needs us to be real to ourselves as citizens of this country. The Ministry of Mines is in charge of production. We produce sugar. We produce iron rocks. We produce this. There is a ministry that sees that things lead this country in a proper way. There is a ministry that fixes the prices of these things and sees their movements. It is the duty of all sectoral ministries to see that something that is illegal should not be allowed to leave the borders of this country. So it is our responsibility to produce. The mining companies, the oil companies, everybody has a responsibility to see. But all the administrative network, which is ranging from customs to police to gendarmes to everybody, has to put in an effort, especially at our airports and at our frontiers with other countries like Nigeria and Central Africa, and have coal leaving this country through Nigeria, just like cocoa, just like cotton goes to Nigeria. So we need to be vigilant. And when it comes to gold, it can be more complicated because it is carried in small quantities. So we need to be vigilant. We need to work a lot with the nations to which it goes so that we get back the rewards of defaulters. And those defaulters, I'm sure, with time we are tracking, and I think that the government is working very well to track down always, because those names are known. And when the time will come, I think that will be a retrospective operation of the statuses.
Take us through the process of gold commercialization. That is, after extraction,
yes,
you sell it to who? To export. What do you need to export?
The mining code today gives exclusivity to buy gold. The Shinomin has the right to buy all the gold. So you need to export gold. You have your point of start is with Shinomin. And by the time you finish, all the paperwork will be done in a way that, in fact, there are still people who have licenses before the law came who can export them. But once those licenses expire, we are for 2 years, then they cannot be renewed because Sonamin has exclusivity to buy. So Sonamin has taken measures also to liaise with partners who will finance them to buy the gold. But if we don't know all the gold that is produced, people will only sell to Sonamin what they declare. So our aim is to make sure that both at the source and at the exit, there is a data ownership. So we believe that once you don't have your papers, you are taking a risk, because if you are caught with gold that you not going through the procedures on relation, you simply be confiscated. And that should be a warning to anybody taking that risk. And I think this program is going to go a long way to tell people who want to do what is not right, because there's no more commission to sit and judge whether you pay penalties. If within 48 hours you not produce the right papers, since 2024, you cannot more have a way. You are going to simply skip it. So if people get this warning, it will be better for them taking that city as to the right use.
Let's take some interviews now. Interviews of the week.
CPDM, the regime, and its people are actually violating the constitution, and we as a people, sovereign according to Article 2, are saying no. Every leader has to be elected, and that's the reason why the constitution provided that in the case of vacancy of the President of the Republic, elections should be organized in 20 to 120 days. And the goal of that was that the President of the Senate will organize these elections to make sure that the people have an elected leader. The Vice President will have the obligation to continue the mandate of the President, the incumbent President, till the end. It violates the principles of democracy, it violates our Constitution, it violates Article 64, and we are saying no to it. No amendments can be carried on the Constitution if it violates the principles of the form of the state, the principles of unity, the principles of territoriality, and also the principles of democracy. Now, the creation of the vice presidency violates the very principles that govern democracy in Cameroon.
The Holy Week now is the culmination of Lent, where each and every one, through fasting, through charity, through almsgiving, through penance, encounter God, and then in many ways will find healing, will find joy, will find happiness, will feel belonging again. So this Holy Week is a culmination of everything that we've been doing during this Lenten period.
We've talked about the benefits of the mineral extraction or exploitation going on to the state as an entity. Now, the Cameroonian who is down there would be asking, but what am I benefiting from all of these?
Yes. Let me tell you, for the 5 projects we launched last year, the net value, that means if you take the value as of today's price, is over $150 billion. Now, if you work out and average, you can say that 10% average will be actually sharing to the state. And listed other taxes. Dividends will be paid, tax will be paid on income, tax will be paid on using our rings, tax will be paid on charges at our seaports and everything. There is royalties that where that mining activity is taking place will be paid to the local companies. The jobs are enormous. Now, I want to also say that the incident of artisanal mining, yes, we have to address it, but let us focus on industrial mining and solve and clean the artisanal sector. The mainstay of the economy of this country is not artisanal. We have to make sure that the state gets what they can from that sector. The jobs that people say we stop and clean the sector, it's not just extremely much. We have to innovate the artisanal sector and make sure that decent one. But I want to assure the youth of this nation, the women of this nation, the men of this nation, is that the impact that we are just starting with 10 projects we have on this nation is far better than the impact that the petroleum sector had. It is only the beginning. We are still having perspectives of rare earth. And in 3 regions of this country, we have rare earth where our partners, or very countries I don't want to call them, are already here. And in 3 regions, we are going to the one with the top for titanium and rare earth. That is still a chapter to come. There's great hope for our nation. Yes, there might be resistance, there might be difficulty to change some old habits, but we do not mean harm. We know that the resistance comes with so many attacks, comes with so much blackmailing, but we are only there to do our duty and make sure that it might be painful now, but Cameroon has a great future. Cameroon has a possibility of being the industrial machine, especially with a big project like the bauxite project. It's going to include the whole of Central Africa. And we are already the second producer by the end of this year, bauxite. And I can state with all clarity that if you continue with the present vision, Cameroon will be first 5 of 8 metals. We need only the vision. Stay like this and transform that vision into it. Dubai was a desert. Some 70 years ago, people moved on camels. We have more than what they took Dubai. Transform itself to a vision. We are very patient. We need to educate. We need to keep explaining. But I can tell you that the mining sector has come to stay. The education is very important. Licenses will be given to those who can develop them. People take licenses because they want to go and scratch the surface. As a condition, you have a company that is already in the industry qualifies you to have a license. But you cannot create a company today and you want to have a license. SNH deals with facts. If you are not producing oil in the world, you cannot buy data. But we have said any Cameroonian can be involved in the industry, but partner up with a company that already has mining. Otherwise, you only take the license and keep and block the country. So I think these are facts. We'll continue to educate on different subjects. We'll be having a press point to continue addressing and making sure that more people will come to ask us questions about what is the future. But all I can conclude to say, the future is bright. Mining has started.
The future is bright. Thank you so much, Mr. Minister, for making up time to have this conversation with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking us. That's it for today. Goodbye.